StrayAllDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is do not be physically diligent while at the same time being mentally lazy. And of course, I'll get into that momentarily. First of all, a couple housekeeping things you need to know. Number one, my daily motivation text comes out every morning. It's a straight SMS text message to everyone who's in my text community. If you didn't know about it, now you know. Text me to get into the community and get that message every day. My number is 305-384-6894. Second, if you haven't gotten your ticket yet to Work on Your Game Live, if I'm talking about it, I'll record these episodes ahead of time. So you need to go to workonyourgame.live and see if the page is still up. If the page is still up and available, that means you can still get a ticket to the event. But when that page goes down, the tickets are closed and you can no longer get a ticket to the event. So go to workonyourgame.live, get your ticket to this event. 2 full days here in Miami with me, giving you all the game that you need to move yourself forward personally and professionally. And number 3, if you have not yet joined Work on Your Game University, that's where you get access to all of my courses, all of my exclusive trainings. That is the next step in your Work on Your Game journey. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com and we will direct you where you need to go. So getting into the topic, don't be physically diligent and mentally lazy. This is what happens when people try to outwork their problems and effort their way through brick walls instead of doing what a smarter approach would lead to, which is like looking for the door inside the wall instead of running through the wall, or a way to go over or around a wall. What many people do unknowingly, and sometimes knowingly, because they don't want to do anything else, they're being mentally lazy, is they decide to swap physical energy and physical output in place of, they use that in place of intelligence and critical thinking and problem solving. Intelligence, critical thinking, and problem solving. I'm suggesting today that you do not make this mistake, and I'm going to give you the reasons why here today. So what I'm talking about here is whenever you are in a situation where you are facing a challenge of any sort, and instead of stepping back from the challenge and asking yourself, what is the best way, the smartest way to approach this challenge so I can solve this issue with the most efficient use of my resources, time, money, attention, energy, and focus. What many people do, and this is a bad decision, but this is what many people do, is that they simply double down on the one form of investment that most people understand really well, which is effort. That doesn't mean everybody does it well, but everybody understands it. Effort is simply hard work, giving more, trying harder, showing up earlier, staying later. This is what many people do whenever they face a problem in life. And I know that this is true because when I get a lot of DMs, emails, text messages and stuff from people on a daily basis. And when I ask them, I dig into whatever their challenges are, because often people are telling me what their challenges are, because I'll ask them. And often the response that people give, I would say about 60 to 75% of the time, when I ask people what their current strategy is to deal with whatever their challenge happens to be, it's some form of doubling down on effort. Here's the problem with this, folks, is that your efforts up to this point, your best efforts up to this point, were not sufficient to get you where you wanted to go. And that does not necessarily mean that you've given all the effort that you possibly could. It doesn't mean you could not see a marginal improvement if you were to step your effort up. I'm not saying that it's impossible. But what I am saying at the same time is that often effort is not the thing that is missing from your formula, and that's not the reason why you are having the challenge that you're having. Oftentimes the real challenge for people is a lack of strategy, meaning you haven't put any thought into your approach. So you're just trying to effort your way through the situation. Again, it's like if a person you're on some type of journey, you're physically walking somewhere and you come across a brick wall, would you just start ramming your body and your head into the brick wall and trying to break through it? Or would you try to go around the wall, over the wall? Maybe there's a door that allows you to pass through the wall. Of course, all of you are saying logically of course I would try to go around or through the wall or over it, or somehow what's the word I'm looking for? Somehow just get through that wall without trying to run through it. You wouldn't try to run through the wall. There's a word that I'm looking for that's escaping me right now at this moment. But the whole point is, nobody would just start running into the wall and just trying to break it down, because you probably end up hurting yourself in some way physically before you succeeded in breaking down the wall. But this is what many of you do when you face challenges in life. You're basically running into the wall over and over again. But because there's no physical penalty for the current approach that you're using that clearly does not work, you don't notice that it's not working, or you don't notice as directly. It's not as obvious to you that it doesn't work, but it's the exact same idea. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. Point number one, topic once again is do not be physically diligent and mentally lazy. Number one, the brain is stronger than the body. This is hard for many people to understand, because we can't see our brains, and we can't see it physically when it's working. When your brain is working, you can't see it. You don't see exertion on your brain. You can see exertion in your body. Like when you're physically working hard, if you're in the gym doing an exercise, you can look in the mirror, or you can physically feel it. You can see your muscles, you can feel your muscles, you can feel and see the sweat. You can see the fatigue when you're putting out physical effort. This is why many people default to putting out more effort whenever they're facing challenges, because it's the easiest thing for the human beings to understand, and thus the easiest thing for most people to do, because it doesn't take a deep level of thinking to understand, okay, let me just work harder, try harder, etc. And in the Western world especially, we espouse and we pedestalize hard work and effort. And then when people become successful, they pedestalize their hard work as if that was the reason for their success, when often there's a lot more than that goes into people's success. And this is how people get fooled in life. This is why I told you, one of the worst inaccurate formulas that you've been taught all of your life is that hard work is going to be the key to your success. I talked about that in episode 2163, by the way. If you haven't heard that, the 4 worst inaccurate formulas you've been taught. The number 1 inaccurate formula all of us get taught is that hard work is the key to your success. The challenge is, the thing that's most easy to do and the thing that most people default to is usually the least effective thing to do. Let me say that sentence one more time for those of you who are daydreaming. The thing that is most easy to do and the thing that most people default to doing is usually the least effective thing to do in all of life. The opportunity in life is usually in the opposites. As Earl Nightingale said in The Stranger's Secret, if you want to be exceptional, all you have to do is look around in your environment, look at what most everyone else is doing, and do the opposite of that. Because you're doing the opposite, and the opportunity is usually in doing what everybody else is not doing. And the challenge for most people, though, is that it's an emotional pain to go against the grain and not do what they see everybody else around them doing. And now, the opposite of using physical exertion or doubling down on effort when things are not working is to use your brain and ask yourself, all right, how could I solve this problem without putting in a ton more effort, but instead just using a ton more insight? So you have to understand, like I talked about in episode 1177, that insight is the difference between 1x and 10x. And insight is not about you working a ton harder. Insight is about asking yourself better quality questions, getting better ideas, and then taking the same effort that you were using before, maybe even less effort, just applying it to a different question and a different approach and getting 10 times the result. Insight is just about changing your approach. It's not about working harder and giving more effort. The problem with always looking to work harder and give more effort when things aren't working is that eventually you reach the peak of your output. There's only so much effort you can give. All right, there's no such thing as giving 110%. That's a cliche, but there's no such thing. The most effort you can give is 100%. All right, the most time you can work in a day is 24 hours. So there's a limit to that. When your brain comes up with an insight that is a different approach than what you're used to, it's going to require some work, yes. But it will be more efficient work than simply ramming yourself into a stone wall or a brick wall hoping to break it down. All right, that is a very inefficient approach. Understand that the human brain, when it is challenged, will come up with insightful approaches to problems. The challenge for many people is that they haven't conditioned their brains to do this, so your brain is not prepared for the task. But it can be if you would start putting it to work. And even better, you can have someone else provide you with some insights. There are other humans on the planet who already have the insights that you need, and they will provide you with the insights to say, okay, instead of approaching your issue this way, how about you approach it this way? And the challenge with that is when someone offers you that insight of doing something different than what you've conditioned yourself to do over the last 30 years, is that for many people, it's very hard for them to break the habit of what they've always done, even if what you've always done has clearly not worked. Many people will spend their whole lives continuing to do things that don't work simply because it's comfortable for you, and it's very uncomfortable to try anything different. And this is where most people's problems come in. It's not that people, see, a lot of people like to think or believe or even say that they don't have access to the information, or they don't have the opportunities, or they don't know what to do. That is not the issue for most of you. All right, you're listening to a podcast, or you have access, you have opportunity, you have information. What's stopping you is that when you get exposed to an insight that would give you an approach that would actually work, you simply don't do it. Why? Because it's outside of your comfort zone, and you're more comfortable doing the same things you've always been doing your entire life that already have been proven not to work. And when I say not to work, that means not getting you clearly to your goal. Now, just because you can get a little bit of marginal success from your approach does not mean that your approach should be continued. This is the biggest challenge for most people. This is a mental and emotional challenge, folks. This is not a technical, it's not a skill challenge, it's not an informational challenge. Even though most people like to use that as the excuse, that's not the reason. The real reason is mental and emotional. And here's what I'm talking about. When I talk about inaccurate formulas, this is exactly what I mean. See, many people think, they like to say rather, that their problem is one thing when their problem is actually another thing. And as long as you are inaccurate as to what the actual problem is, you'll never solve it. And this is why many people don't change in life. This is why many people don't advance. You have to get your brain and your emotions aligned with what will actually work. If you've been doing something for 10 years and it doesn't work, or you got to change your approach. It's like if a person was trying to get their body in shape and they haven't worked out for 10 years, all right, you got to change your approach. And you need, first of all, you got to get yourself conditioned. You probably can't do everything the first day, but you got to get ready. Now, you got to get started at least start walking around the block a couple times before we go do a full CrossFit workout, or you try to complete a marathon. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is don't be physically diligent and mentally lazy. Number 2, hard work and effort have limitations, as I've explained in point number 1. Biggest limitation of hard work and effort is that there is only so much of it that you can do. There's only so much time that you can give to anything, because you have a limit of 24 hours in a day. So only so much effort you can put into something, because you have a limit of 100% effort. You can't give any more than that. And there's a limit to how much each human body can output of any of these things. There is no limit, however, to what the human brain can produce, because the human brain works in multiples, whereas effort works in additions. You can only add to your effort, and again, you reach a max of 100%. Human brain can multiply things, because the human brain can create insights. Your muscles cannot create insights. The human brain, instead of working in additions and subtractions, it works in multiplications and also exponents. This is why it's better to use your brain to address problems than just use your muscles to address a problem. Notice that professional athletes, even the best ones in the world, are usually out of the game, meaning they're done playing their sport by the time they're age 30 or 40 years old. The great ones is 40. Everybody else is 30, and most people is less earlier than that. The reason why this is because there's a limit to what the muscles can do. The greatest athletes who you heard of are done playing by 40 years old. And they're the best of everybody. They're done by 40. Because the muscles have a limit. There's a limitation to just using your muscles to solve any problem. But people who use their brains, on the other hand, let's say entrepreneurs, thought leaders, authors, thinkers, philosophers, how long do they work? All right, they are active in the game. They can keep working till they die. They're working at 60, 70, 80 years old, whereas an athlete is done by 40 years old. How is that? Why is the shelf life twice as long for somebody who uses their brain than it is for someone who uses their muscles? You ever thought about that? Let's think about it right now. Why is that? Because the human brain does not wear out as quickly as the muscles wear out. The human brain will work and be sharp. The human brain can be sharp up through if you die of old age, up through your death. The human brain can stay sharp all of these years. The muscles do not stay that sharp. They don't fire the same way at 40 that they did at 30. They don't fire the same way at 65 that they did at 37. Simply how it works. So the human brain lasts longer, and it can do more things than the muscles can do. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is do not be physically diligent while being mentally lazy. So now that I've explained to you that the brain can do things that the muscle simply cannot do, even though you can't literally see the brain working when it's working, we know that it does. Remember that effort is quantitative, meaning you can do more effort, you can do less effort. Thought, on the other hand, is qualitative. You can multiply and change exponentially with a change in thought. That's why it matters so much. When you change the way that you're thinking about things, you can make big changes in a very short period of time. I talked about qualitative versus quantitative change in episodes number 22, 28, and 22, 29. If you haven't listened to those yet, they are linked down below in the show notes, or you can just look them up at workonyourgamepodcast.com, so you can see every episode in the history of this show. It is not possible to make exponential change with a change in effort, though many people will think that it is possible. It's not possible. You can make an addition change. You can add or subtract when you change your effort. In other words, you work harder at something, you can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 get better at something if you put in more effort. The thing is, again, eventually you're going to reach the maximum effort output you can give, and you can't go any higher than that. You'll hit the ceiling. But with thought and qualitative change, you can continue to change. You can exponentially advance. You can multiply your outputs if you change the way that you're thinking about things, because thinking leads to insights, and insights lead to ways that you can make big changes with small efforts. Exponential change that comes from a change in effort starts with a change in thought patterns. Then those thoughts manifest themselves in the form of efforts. And there's a big difference between the two. You don't take the same exact thought patterns and put more effort in and then get exponentially different results. Let me repeat that one because I want to make sure you caught it. You can't take the same thought patterns that you had yesterday, just work harder at the same thought patterns, and then think you're going to get exponentially different results. That will not happen. That's not possible. It's against the laws of physics. But if you change the way that you're thinking about something and then take the exact same level of effort that you had yesterday, you can get exponentially different results. Why? Because you're applying the same effort to a different approach. This is why a change in thoughts matters more than a change in efforts. You can give the exact same effort, even less effort, to a different approach, and you get completely different things. Let me give you an example. In the work on your game world, I sell things like, I have books that I've written. If you're watching this on video, you can see the books behind me. I have coaching programs, I have courses. These are all at different price points. If I was to take time and focus on trying to sell a book, for example, I can offer my books, a few of my books I give you for free. We just ask you to cover the shipping. The shipping is usually $9.95. I could put effort into trying to sell 10 copies of that book. All right, if I wanted to today, I could go try to sell 10 copies of that book at $9.95 a piece for shipping. That's $99. Was that $99.50? I believe that's right. $99.50. That's what I would make if I sold 10 copies of that book. On the other hand, I have courses. Let's take my Bulletproof Mindset course, which the last time I had it open, it was $497. If I sold 10 copies of Bulletproof Mindset today, instead of selling 10 copies of the book, I would make, $4,970 in one day. 10 sales of each. Either way, I have to go out and talk about it. I got to tell people about it. I got to get 10 people to make the decision, the buying decision to purchase whatever I'm selling, whether it's the $995 book or the $497 course. And that price on Bulletproof Mindset may be different next time you see it, by the way. So when you see me offering the course, make sure you take advantage because the price will go up. Anyway, the point is, it takes me the same amount of effort to try to sell a book that it would to sell a course. But can we see the difference in return on investment? Which one's going to make you more money? A $995 sale or a $497 sale? So if you had to put your time and effort into one, which one would you put your time and effort into, depending on what your goal is? If your goal is to make as much money as possible, you probably want to sell the highest ticket thing you have and focus on selling that, since it takes the same amount of effort to sell either one. Now, it doesn't mean the same people are going to buy either one. Doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the same volume of sales. But again, how many books would I have to sell to equal up to one $497 sale? All right, with 10 books to be $100, what's that, 50 books? I would have to sell about 50 books to make the same amount that it would take me to sell one course. Now, which one would you rather do? Is that 50? Is that 50 number right? 10, yeah, 50 books. This is why a change in approach, mental approach, using the exact same effort can produce much more return. This is why insight matters. This is why you invest in yourselves, people. This is why you get coaching. This is why you join masterminds, because other people will show you ways that you can take the same thing that you're already doing, just apply it in a different way, and the results start multiplying. But if you leave yourself as the person in charge of the job, you don't have these insights. Now you're going to keep putting more and more effort into the same things that you're already doing. There's only so far that you can go. And this is how people get stuck. This is why people feel frustrated. This is why people are sitting around saying, I'm doing all this, this, and this, but I'm not getting the outcome that I want. That's because the things that you're doing, this, and this, you're just doing the wrong things. This is why you need to invest in yourselves and get the insights and information from people other than you, because you have proven yourself to be unqualified to solve your own problems. Let's recap today's class, which is do not be physically diligent and mentally lazy. This is what happens when people try to outwork their problems through effort and try to just run their way through a brick wall, which physically would be stupid. Nobody would actually try to do that, but this is what all of you are doing mentally, spiritually, and emotionally when you keep trying the same approaches to solve problems that you haven't been able to solve. Point number one, the brain is stronger than the body. It's hard for people to understand because we can see and feel when our body is working. You can't see and feel when your brain is working. But the opportunity in life is in the opposites. Most people default to more effort and hard work when things don't work. The opportunity is doing the opposite of that, which is instead of working harder, actually work less and think more. All right, that's the actual opportunity. Point number two, hard work and effort have their limitations. The biggest limitation is there's only so much effort you can give, 100%, only so much time you can work, 24 hours in a day. They have hard limits. Your thinking does not have a limit. The only limit your thinking has is the limits that you have placed on it up to this point. Think about this. The best athletes in the world, when they're 40 years old, they're done. The best thinkers in the world, they can do it until they're twice that age, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old. Why? Because the brain does not wear out the way that the muscles wear out. Point number three, effort is quantitative. You can do more or less. Thought is qualitative. You can multiply and change exponentially with a change in thought. You cannot do that with a change in effort. If you have a $9 product and a $1,000 product, if you take the same amount of effort into selling a $9 product as you do into the $1,000 product, how long would it take you to make the same amount of money? Again, this is why you got to ask yourself better quality questions. It will lead to better quality approaches. All said, text me. Get my daily motivation. My number is 305-384-6894. Get your ticket to Work on Your Game Live by going to workonyourgame.live and get into the Work on Your Game University so you get access to all my courses and trainings and exclusive trainings that take you deeper into the game of what you already get on this show. That's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.